Good morning. This is the teacher, and I'm here to broadcast to you live from my house. So, consciousness. Let's elaborate more on consciousness because there's multiple ways that people approach consciousness, or human beings. Consciousness can either be accepted or can be accepted through an acceptance. So acceptance is more of like a past tense. So some people who have accepted use this word accepted in their life. What happens is, it ends up being past tense. Oh, I've already accepted that that's how they are, or how people are and they approach. I've already accepted that's how humans react or communicate. So what happens is when we use this word accepted, we just move on, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm aware of that, or I've gotten some kind of knowledge about how they react. So I've already accepted that's how humans are. So I'm just going to go about it as I please. So with using this word in our mind, it creates an egoic response. And what I mean by an egoic response, it's more of like accepting something more of like when it's like, oh, okay, I already know how they are, human, why do they act like that, you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, it creates a sarcastic response. And with consciousness, that's not consciousness, that's basically being conscious. So when someone is in consciousness and they use that those phrases, or to help them better themselves, it steps them back into being conscious. So when we're trying to get to consciousness, be positive, being accepting that, what, that human has its own experience, and that's what is programming their responses and their reactions. So it's coming to an acceptance. What, how can we focus on this certain individual, or what kind of program can we build to help this person become conscious too, because their reaction and responses, it's their own, it's suffering, for themselves. For us who are into the whole spiritual journey, we're aware that certain words and phrases affects our inner body, and it ends up programming our organs and shutting down. So we're trying to get to consciousness and stay in the consciousness mindset. So now we're going to acceptance. Acceptance to me means accepted the trans. So when I mean by accept the trans, it's more of like a spell that's over the human. So when I say acceptance, it's more of coming to the acceptance, that certain individual has gone through an experience. And, I can see what experience they personally need to release, cleanse out from their mind, and I can guide them to help them. Yet, approaching those certain responses and that certain human being is always the tricky part, because we want to assure that when we approach this certain individual with a positive communication that is going to help them understand and be like, what, you're right, I do need to cleanse that, or I need to grow past that. It's that's the goal, is to find that certain response, to get them to be like, the goal is not to get them to be like, oh, what, that's not me, that's, you're crazy, I don't know what you're saying, because that's denial. That creates more suffering. That creates an individual who will possibly not want to seek our type of guidance due to us giving them the truth, yet in understanding that, they need us. You know what I mean? We're the uplifters of this planet. Like we're raising the vibration. That's our goal. So, I'm only speaking to making these videos to kind of give you like an elaboration of how your mind and how your heart is going to be speaking in consciousness after you go through my workshop. So this is why I'm making these videos, to make all of these videos knowledgeable to all the humans who are out there on planet Earth. Because we all have different experiences. We all have different experiences that motivated us to go to college. Who didn't motivate us to go to college due to certain experiences that demotivated us to make certain choices that were going to better our lives. So that's coming to the acceptance as a human being, that every human could be successful. Yet what is shown or what is programmed, those it kind of puts a pause in their life, and they don't accept it. And that's something that what I've been creating my workshop is to create a positive person who goes through the program and is going to create a positive response or positive communications to other individuals that are going to basically make them spark, enlighten. So all these videos are just to basically get me to know you, you to know me, and just know this is the type of human being I am. After I went through the workshop, and the other humans that have went through my workshop, this is how they present themselves now. Very energetic, very positive, very inspiring talking, like how I am, smiling. So it's very important. This is how human beings are normally. We're not all professional and straight up, I guess just that professional way of approaching things. I guess that's too serious. That's too parenting. I guess you can say, but we won't talk about that subject yet. We're right now we're talking about acceptance, and accepting that every human being, every child, every teenager, every mid-adult, every adult, every old human being is going through their own little programmatic experiences, going about their personal lifestyle. So I'm going to give an example. My grandparents, when they came from Mexico, they had to strive to survive. So they only had beans and rice to eat. You know what I mean? So what they were doing was working and just eating beans and rice. That was it for a whole period of their time. And then they had my uncle, my aunt, my other uncle, and then my mom. So we're not going to talk about my mom at the moment yet. With my uncle, my aunt, and my other uncle, when they were born in this strive to survive period. So what happens is the parents were focused on strive to survive. They were not giving the compassionable support system inside the home. So what happened was, going about that whole strive to survive period, when it got down to my mom being born, that's when my grandparents started being more lenient. That's when they had a house, they were paying their bills, they were stable, and to where it started creating jealousy with the children. The 3 children before my mom were jealous because how they got treated was different from how she got treated. So what happened was, with having the stability, they had more time to be compassionate, more caring, yet the parents started seeing this same behavior, this jealousy behavior. So then they started doing the same behavior that they did with the first 3 onto the 4th child, which is my mom. And so what happened was, after a couple years, when they grew up to be adults, these programs of sarcasticness and jealousness evolved. So what happened was, after I was born and my sister was born, what happened after that was that we started getting reactions from my uncle, my aunt, and my other uncle, and we started getting the jealousy approaches. We started getting the angry approaches. Oh, grandparent, because when we were born, we weren't shown or communicated about, how they came to strive to survive. We didn't hear about their lifestyle or anything like that, because it was forgotten, or it was, I guess, embarrassing, you can say, to talk about, So what happened was, we saw a house, stability, compassionate approaches. So the other 3 didn't appreciate that approach because they felt like they didn't get that, so why did we deserve it? So they didn't see the difference because there was no communication, between my grandparents and, my family, my uncles and aunts and stuff. So there was no communication to understand, their acceptance. Okay, I can accept, how I reacted before and how I can parent, to where it's like now I'm parenting different. So there was no communication about, what, I'm sorry, mijo, or I'm sorry, uncle, that, I approached you like that. The reason why was because I was striving to survive. So there's no conscious approaches about that. It's just more of like, okay, you see, what's being programmed in their mind is just that, okay, let it go. You can do it over again. And that's all that's going on. There is no conscious communication. So what we got was certain approaches. As a kid, as a child, I'm getting these approaches, being like, oh, grandpa buys you this and grandpa buys you that. So in my mind, how I felt insecure, I felt bad. I felt guilty that I was born, and I felt like, it was not, like, I didn't understand why I was being approached this way, you know what I mean? So I started to understand, why that's my uncle, this is my family, why am I being approached? But yet now I'm seeing it as, we're all human beings and we all have our own experiences that have programmed us to approach certain topics or certain communications in certain ways. So how we communicate is it just needs a little tuning, little mechanical adjustments. So that's all it is. And that's a personal experience that I came to understanding. Well, at first I kind of accepted it, to where I was like, oh, whatever, that's my uncle. And I approached it with arguing and stuff like that. But going through my workshop, I grew to come to an acceptance. And I was just like, you know what? My uncle needs help. He's suffering. He's going through his own health issues right now and stuff like that. I'm trying to help my family right now. So this is my goal, to help my family so I can be that experience, or I can be that experiment that can help other people's families as well. Because we all don't want to suffer. And yeah, I know, we're all happy, with what we're doing now with our choices. But what if we could be happy with a different lifestyle, a different way of communication, and a different way of seeing things? And that's my goal, is to help people create that happiness that, is needed around this planet Earth. Because we live in the United States, we have the freedom of speech, and, we want to assure that we don't get that taken away with, how we're communicating and how we make comments on, social media right now. Because there's a lot of comments on social media that's creating a lot of separation, and it's kind of scary, There's a lot of people who are saying certain things that are, I'd be kind of scared if they did take over. Or, they're not caring about someone's other's feelings, or they're commenting about someone else, and this other individual on the other side of the comment is getting hurt. They're getting depressed, and then they want to take their own lives. That's it's sad to see, and it's sad to watch it happen, because, that certain individual that's going depressed, their personal experience in their home possibly shaped them in that certain way to take communication in that way, and or they didn't, their mind didn't program egoic responses that was going to keep them alive and keep them pushing. So what happens is they push themselves to the limit, and then they take their own lives. So it's more of like seeing that mind could have been a top engineer, a top journalist, a top writer, a top human being that could have been like, what, oh, I know her, she's done something great for our world and, our country. So that's what my program and workshop's all about. It's trying to get those certain individuals that are going, for career plans, or even want to help shape their families into positive approaches and experience a different way of seeing them. And because, we're all important. We're born for a reason, and we're born to serve purpose. And that's basically my goal, is to get as many individuals as I can, as I'm still alive, to shift into consciousness, because those next generations are going to be very important. And, I'm going to be living in those times, or my kids and my grandchildren are going to live in those times. So it's more of seeing it in a consciousness perspective, and seeing that I want my my family, or other humans on the world, to prosper positively. um, and yeah, well, that's what this video is all about, is understanding the difference from conscience and the consciousness behavior, and accepting conscience and coming to the acceptance of what consciousness truly is. So consciousness is coming to the acceptance and understanding that the reason why human beings approach certain things because we do is not their fault. It is a program, and it's coming to their level and understanding, what, I didn't know that until I went about things in my life, or I took these classes, psychology classes that talk about this stuff, or it's coming to their level that, what, at one point I used to gossip too. It's coming to that acceptance that we were all AIs at one point. And I'm not talking about artificial intelligence, but I'm talking about hello. What happened to the screen? Oh, okay. Well, I won't get too much into AIs right now until my next video, but what I'm gonna do right now is walk you through a cleansing. So what I'm gonna do now is walk you through a cleansing. Did you just not hear that? That was like a repeat, huh? It's like my universe jumped into your universe all over again. See? Happy. And understanding that, in life we make mistakes, even though it's a video, and I can't pause it. We just gotta keep growing on. Grow with the mistakes, and mirror reflect the mistakes and keep growing. So I'm gonna walk you through a cleansing right now. What I want you to do is, we're gonna pick a topic. We're gonna pick a topic that begins with a certain experience that a human being cannot or always goes through. So the experience that we're going to talk about is paying a bill. So there's going to be 2 cleanses and 2 visuals that I'm going to walk you through. One of the visuals is, I want you to visualize yourself getting the mail, all these bills, all these tickets, not being able to pay them off. So your visual is you're gonna see yourself with the bills, stressing out over the bills that you gotta pay for this and that you don't have the money, and you're gonna look in your wallet. That's the visual you're gonna do. So what you're gonna do with that visual is you're gonna close your eyes, taking a deep breath through your nose, and exhale. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna visualize that same category that I gave you about the bill. You're going to breathe in, you're going to visualize it, and then after, you're going to watch it warp into like a little ball, and kind of just watch it leave out into your out of your breath. So as you exhale, you're watching this warped little memory kind of just disappear. Okay? So that's the first one. Now, I want you to cleanse opening up these bills and you having a tons of money, able to pay off the bills, and you're not stressing. See, now we're asking the questions, why would we want to cleanse something that we're capable of doing, or that we're positive about doing because we have enough money at that time? See, what happens is our minds are looking for expectations. So if we set an expectation, our mind is like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it today. Yet in reality, in our society, our expectation to be that #1 scientist or that ultimate football player is going to happen in 10 years. So what we're cleansing right now is the peer pressure of it happening right now. Yet we can still know that goal or write it in a notebook and still have it set somewhere in our life or around our surroundings. Yet we want to release that from our mind because it releases the peer pressure and the tension of of having it at that moment. So this creates patience within ourselves. So now we're going to visualize having enough money, having the money to pay the bills, and being happy that it's all done with. So now we're going to close our eyes, breathe in, Breathe out. Breathe in. Visualize the category. Warp it into a little piece of oxygen. And then release as you exhale. See, what happens is, going through this cleansing process, you are manually deleting this memory. You are manually deleting this expectation. So what happens is, it helps the mind relax. And it helps the mind enjoy life. And, you know, this technique has helped me communicate like I do. Come to acceptance of certain things just the way I do. And it's grown the people around me because I've taught them this method. Because in life, we're taught to let go of things. You know, in reality, we let it go. But in reality, we probably let it go and it drops and hits our feet a couple weeks later. So when we let it go, we just, okay, we don't see it. You know, so we don't have to physically let anything go. So what we have to do, we have to manually cleanse it. So instead of letting go, we need to let this experience relive in our minds. And we need to visually walk it out. Okay? So that's a little beginning of, you know, my like little walkthroughs of what's in store for my workshop. So right now, what your tasks are to do is to focus on what's really going on in your lifestyle right now. What experiences are kind of creating a little pause of breath for ourselves? What experiences are making us forget to breathe at that moment? What experiences in our life are making our chest tight and then not being able to breathe, and then all of a sudden we get headaches, and then, you know, we feel like we're having a heart attack? So that's your skills work for the rest after watching this video, is to go through this process and cleanse the negative possibilities, cleanse the positive expectations. Okay? So that's it today from the teaching. I will continue typing the rest of my intro to grow so you all understand why this cleansing process is 100% positive, and it's what the Buddhas and the gurus and, you know, basically what Christianity talks about repenting. It's the same thing, same human, just a different way of approaching the topic and how to help us grow as a human. Okay? So this is the teaching, and I'm logging off now. Bye-bye.